Welcome to the show. This is episode 10 of our Batman Begins film commentary. The time code for anyone listening at home is 1 hour and 16 minutes and 15 seconds to 1 hour and 19 minutes and 44 seconds. Joining me today, two episodes in a row, is Shenmue. This is a beautiful establishing shot of the Narrows. Now, what you're seeing here is a plate shot of Chicago on the right and in the background with a model of the Narrows composited over the plate and probably, I would guess, with some CGI enhancements as well. Now, when I first saw this, I did not believe it in the sense that I didn't believe that you would have such a clean modern city with this slapped right in the middle of it. That is, of course, until I played Shenmue 2. Now, I guess to begin, we need to explain what Shenmue 2 is. Shenmue 2 was a video game that originally released on Sega's Dreamcast console in 1999.
Yeah,
Which was an underrated system, would you say?
it was definitely an underrated system. And it came from a company, Sega, at the time, who released too many devices, right? They were very, I think we've talked about this in the past where our assumptions of Sega were that they were being greedy and they were releasing all these different systems because they wanted to make more and more money and do, I mean, I'm sure that's obviously a big part of it, but making money, obviously. But I think really looking back, Sega just wanted to do cool tech and they just kept releasing cool tech when it was ready and they just released it and they were like, yeah, people will buy it. But they needed a bit more of a business know-how to kind of go like, well, hang on a minute, let's wait until like it makes sense to release this cool tech, right? So they released a bunch of different systems in the day, and they're obviously the most famous for what the Americans call the Genesis or what we call the Mega Drive.
Their first system was the SG-1000, I think,
Oh yeah,
which was only, I think, sold in Japan.
yeah,
And then there was like a few different models of that. And then basically, when they brought that over to the West, they renamed it the Master System.
right, right.
And it didn't do particularly well in America, but it did really well in the UK, outselling the Nintendo Entertainment System. It did really well in Europe as well, and is incredibly successful in Brazil. Even to this day, it's still being sold in one form factor or another. The cost of gaming over there is so incredibly expensive that the people can't hope to buy modern game consoles. So they've redesigned the hardware. Now they'll sell it so that the games are all sort of loaded onto the thing, like through emulation. So you could
Hmm.
get like 1,000 games on it or something, but it's still sold and it's people still buy it. Still hugely popular over there. But it was the Genesis, the Mega Drive, that was the peak for Sega, wasn't it, really,
It
in terms
was,
of their
yeah. That
hardware?
was the most popular hardware they've made, really, and I think that's what pe most people will know Sega for that. With obviously they released Sonic on it, which was incredibly famous at the time, and you know that's also their sort of biggest game.
And
But they
you
did a
had
bunch of.
a Mega Drive, didn't you?
I did, yeah, I did. That was our my parents actually bought it for themselves when I was a kid, and not for me, which is always a bit of a joke with us. But it's like, yeah, they bought it for themselves so they can play it, and they actually they used to wait until I went to bed so they could play it. They were like, yeah, right, he's gone to bed, right? Okay, let's crack the Mega Drive open and all that, and they'd have a go and play some
Pop in
Sonic and
Sonic.
yeah, and all these different games. And then I ended up seeing them playing it once, and like they were like, "Yeah, have a go," and all
That
that,
is
and I
so
did.
strange.
Yeah, I know. It's like the reverse of what most people would experience, I think, with games. It's like where they get a console from them. They'd be trying to persuade their parents, right, to get them a console, and the parents would be like, "Oh, you don't need a console." Like that's the most common story I've heard of this kind of thing, but it's
So they
weird to
gave
be
you
the
the
other way
bat and
around.
ball while they secretly
Yeah,
played on their
exactly.
Mega
Yeah,
Drive
yeah,
in the
yeah.
evening.
Yeah, and then yeah, but I was taken by it. I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed playing on it, and that's like definitely my childhood right there. But we used to play a bunch of different games on that. We never bought any of the other Sega stuff.
With the success of the Mega Drive slash Genesis, they started releasing peripherals, didn't they? Add-ons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
The
kind of what I was getting at before of like all these extra
Now
things that
this was
perhaps
the
people never really
downfall of
wanted.
Sega, in my opinion. This was the
Yeah,
beginning of the end because what they did, they released an add-on called the Mega CD, and that was taking advantage of the sort of CD craze, the boom that was happening at the time, right?
yeah,
And the
yeah,
FMV video games and things like that of the sort of early 90s. Before people could even begin to think about saving up to buy that, Sega then released another add-on called the 32X, which was a mushroom-shaped device that plugged into the cartridge slot, and then you would plug in your 32X cartridge into the top of the mushroom. So not only did it look ridiculous, it was also quite pricey.
yeah. Both of these two were complete disasters, right? Like there was
Yeah.
like barely any games for either of them. They didn't do very well. They were too expensive. But it's like I said, I feel like now I look at Sega and I'm like, I genuinely don't think they did this out of greed. I don't think they did it out of like, we can make a load of money out of people by just releasing all these different add-ons. I mean, there probably was somebody there thinking that potentially, but I really do feel like a lot of it was like a tech thing, right? They just wanted to
Mm.
make cool tech and they were like, let's release it. Let's release the cool tech, right?
And then they had the Game Gear,
Oh yeah.
basically a portable handheld master system.
Man, I really wanted one of those when I was a kid. Oh my God, there was a whole time when I was obsessed with the idea of getting a Game Gear, but it was so friggin' expensive. But it used like a million batteries, right? And the battery life was like an hour or something. It
Was
was
it
terrible,
like, was
really.
it 6 or 8 batteries it would
Yeah,
take?
I think, yeah.
Double A
Mind
batteries.
you, the gun that we got for the Mega Drive also that used nine AAA batteries. I remember because we actually had one of those. Nine. Crazy and so expensive. And batteries were more expensive back then, I feel like, than they are now as well,
And did the
because you can get
Sega
big batteries.
Nomad get released?
Oh, the Nomad. I'm not sure it did over in the West. I can't
But it was in
remember
Japan, right?
because that was literally a portable Mega Drive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is honestly, that would have blown my mind when I was a
Now,
kid.
what's interesting about the Sega Nomad is, yes, it's a portable Mega Drive, but you can actually plug it into the television as well. And so it's kind of like a Switch, if you think
Yeah,
about
modern.
it.
It's
It's
the
like
precursor to the
an old
Switch.
school Switch, yeah. Like, so you could actually plug in a cable into the top of your Nomad, just pop it down on the floor or whatever, and now that image from the Nomad is now on the television screen, and you could plug in an actual full-sized Genesis controller into the Nomad and just kick back on the sofa while playing on a television. So you had it was a full Mega Drive and a handheld all in one. But it was just a very inelegant way of doing it compared to the Switch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and expensive as well. And it obviously came out a bit later, but
And
yeah.
then Sega announced the Saturn, right? The Sega Saturn.
Oh my God, I forgot about the Saturn.
The Saturn, they really annoyed people with the Saturn
Oh
because
yeah.
they announced it at E3 and they didn't let any of their partners know beforehand that they announced it and they went up on the stage and they said it and it's on sale right now. And this just annoyed so many people. It annoyed retail because they didn't have the units. It annoyed gamers because everyone was just completely blindsided. And I think the reasoning of it was because they feared the PlayStation coming along, I think.
Yeah,
And they thought, we'll get out ahead of the PlayStation. That was the thinking. It was also pretty expensive at the time. I think it was $400 in
right.
like the early 90s. So like that was pretty pricey. And so what they've done with all this is they sort of undermined consumer confidence in the company because, with a console, when you buy that machine, you buy it with the expectation that the thing's going to last sort of 5 to 6 years before a new piece of tech comes along to replace it. But by releasing all of these add-ons and then blindsiding people with the Saturn, I think people were sort of like, well, should I even buy the Saturn anyway? Because they'll probably release something else like 6 months later or 12 months later. So this
Yeah,
this was their undoing.
it really
And
was.
technically, it was a bit of a Frankenstein's monster as well, I think. It it sort of I think it had like they doubled up on certain chips and things to sort of get it up to the sort of power requirements that they needed. And it really was a really great 2D gaming machine that could do 3D, but just not as well as the PlayStation. So it suffered because of that as well, which is probably why they did put it out so quick because they knew that. They knew that once the PlayStation comes along, this thing's going to look so inferior compared to that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
Shenmue began development on the
on the Saturn,
Sega Saturn, didn't it?
it did. And it looked a lot rougher than the real game. I can say that much. A lot
Yeah.
rougher. So yeah, it really was like the Saturn. Yeah, I think the thing about Sega back then, I guess they were making these R&D systems essentially, right? That's what I feel like all of these things were really. They were R&D systems, but they wanted to recoup the cost of the R&D, right? Which I
Mm.
guess makes sense. But the problem is you're not thinking about it from a point of view of the consumer, where it's like, well,
They're
if
not
you keep
thinking more
releasing
than
them,
like writing what's happening right in front of them. They're not sort of gaming
yeah,
it out, were
exactly.
they?
But it is cool. I admire them more now, though, in a way, because I admire the fact that they were really trying to do like they were doing R&D, which I feel like you get a lot less of now, right? In terms of because now it's like, oh, we're going to use this chip versus this chip. It's not the same R&D style as back then, right? And you got all that going on. There was all this try. They really tried to make all sorts of weird and wonderful different types of things. And it's cool that they were doing that, man. Like I personally think that's like pretty awesome now that I look back at Sega. I'm like, oh man, I've got a respect for Sega that I didn't have at the time, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't. But I mean, I obviously like it's like, well, how can you respect the fact that they want more and more money out of you, right? With like one or two games they basically made one last effort, didn't they?
The Sega Dreamcast.
Win the console war,
Yep. Neither of us bought.
which neither of us bought. Yeah.
Now, why did you not buy the Dreamcast? Do you remember?
I think it was money actually. Like a friend of mine at the time, really good friend of mine. He had a Dreamcast. He got it. He always seemed to have the alternative systems because he had a Dreamcast, and then later on uh he got the Xbox original as well when like after this one. So he always had like because pretty much everyone I knew had like they had a PS1 and then a PS2 or whatever, and it was like very But he had the Dreamcast, and we I remember playing like Sonic Adventure on his system and everything, and a bunch of other games, and it blew my mind at the time. It looked incredible, like it looked so much better than the PS1. But this was also a bit of a weird halfway house, right? Because this system came out before the PS2.
Yeah.
Um, and at the time, I didn't really understand personally, maybe you're different. I didn't really understand console generations very much. So I almost saw this system as like the PS1 generation, actually. I saw it, which I know it isn't now, and I have known that for a long time now, but I saw it as like PS1 because it wasn't really PS2, even though it kind of was, but it wasn't really
Oh,
PS1, right? Like it just felt
I
like a really advanced PS1 in a way.
I viewed it as the beginning of the next generation.
Right. So you did understand that back then, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I feel because it wasn't generations weren't talked about in the same way they are now, right? So
yeah.
I
But
guess
I don't
it's
know
yeah.
how, but like I can't remember how, but it was sort of communicated probably through Sega that this was like the beginning of the next thing.
Right,
Like
yeah.
that
So you
this
did
was
know.
Yeah, so like this was the next leap forward in graphics and gaming, which I thought was weird because when I looked at the controller, it had a single analog stick like the Nintendo 64, but the PlayStation had already surpassed that with their DualShock controller. So I viewed this as a step backward from the PlayStation,
Yeah. And then looking back as well now, we can say it definitely was a step back.
sort of one-upping Nintendo. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they've got
yeah.
one, we've got two.
Yeah, yeah.
It was devs though, wasn't it? It's like when developers started working with the DualShock on the PlayStation and they realized that they could put the camera on the right stick and the movement on the left. It was like
Yeah.
the light bulb moment.
I do know that the Japanese at the time were, in general, were more opposed to the dual analog stick stuff because it took a while. I mean, if you look at the even the GameCube, um, it technically had a second stick, but it wasn't like a proper analog stick. And it's because people didn't necessarily want to play dual analog stick games back then. So it was a definite. So I think that might even be why the Dreamcast didn't. So I really do feel personally, and with zero evidence, right? Because obviously this could be BS. But my speculation is the PS1 simply had two analog sticks just for the aesthetic choice for the symmetry. And I
Mm,
don't think they even thought. And like you said, also one-upping Nintendo. I definitely think that's true too. But I don't think there was a single thought of like it's going to be camera in one stick and movement in the other. I don't think that was the case. But it and then this was a real problem for the Dreamcast, right? Because as the games were moving towards a dual analog stick movement mode, this thing was still rocking one stick. And like
yeah.
it's like, how can you play these games, man, with one stick?
Being a kid, I didn't like that it was white either because back then I'm like, it has to be black because black is cool and
Yeah.
sophisticated, and white is like boring. And I always thought Sega was good with their designs of their consoles. They were all black previously, and then suddenly it's white, and I thought that was weird as well. And I found that the fact that it was white was also off-putting to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is something we've talked about in the past, right? Where like we looked at things like the GameCube with its like purple case with the handle and all that, and we were like, ugh, like this is for kids and everything at the
Mm.
time, because we were broody teenagers. Those kind of things back then really turned me off, but now I'm like, I mean, I suppose that said, even now, right? I'm not bothered about it being like, serious looking or whatever in that sense. But then again, do I really want like this silly purple cube on my under my TV, right? Like even now, I guess I don't necessarily want that.
Yeah,
Not because I don't think it's like whatever, but it just doesn't look nice aesthetically, right? Because as an adult, you want a nice aesthetic like look to your
yeah.
stuff. So it's like I guess I would be the same in a way.
And when Sony showed off the PlayStation 2,
Oh yeah.
this thing was black. It had
Yeah.
the disk drive ejected, right? Like a tray. Now, this all sounds ridiculous. Now, anyone listening to this now in 2026 is thinking, who cares, right? But back
Yeah.
then, it was very cool and
It
it
was.
felt premium. Whereas like the Dreamcast, it had the lid that flipped up like the PlayStation 1. So it just felt like it didn't feel like a next gen machine to me. It felt like they were still, their mind was still like in the previous generation of like the PlayStation with the flip up lid, the N64 with the single analog stick. That's what it felt like. And then
So no wonder
Sony
someone
came
like
along.
myself then, like, no wonder I looked at it back at the time and didn't think it was next gen, right?
Hmm.
In that sense, I thought it was part of the same gen, and I think that's why, because they didn't get the messaging across, right? With
And
that
although
with
it
that
was a
look,
good system for
it
when it
was.
released, Sony came out the following year, and the specs on the PlayStation 2 blew this out of the water.
Yeah.
And then, was it a year after that, you had the GameCube and the Xbox? And again, they were also very capable machines. So it just left Sega really in a bad position because they now had the weaker system on the market, and all those other systems had better controllers with dual analog sticks. They
Yeah.
more powerful hardware. The Xbox and the PlayStation could play DVD movies, and they basically run out of money, hadn't they, at that point, where they were like, we can't actually make more hardware. And they
Yep.
had to
Yeah. And they
make the
decided to
decision
pack it
to,
in.
yeah. But before that happened, they made Shenmue. They released Shenmue 1, and they were working on Shenmue 2, weren't they? And Shenmue 3, like all sort of concurrently. But they got Shenmue 1 out on the Dreamcast and Shenmue 2. But we didn't play it, did we, on that? Because we didn't have the system. So we
Yep.
actually started with Shenmue 2 on the original Xbox.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. I mean, I will say first of all, like Shenmue, it like although like you said, the PS2 was like definitely more powerful than the Dreamcast. You definitely saw a lot more from it. But when you look at Shenmue, right, that thing was like so much better looking, I feel like, than everything else around that time, right? Like it was just so light years ahead. And we didn't even play it till years later, and it still looked incredible at the time. I mean, it has aged now, definitely.
So
But
I didn't play Shenmue 2 until I had an Xbox 360.
oh, that's
And
right, yeah.
you actually recommended Shenmue 2 to me. And I still had my original Xbox, so I went and purchased the game for my original Xbox. So I had this brand new Xbox 360 in my bedroom, and it was just sitting there unused for
Yeah.
about a month. I mean, I used it for online gaming and stuff in the evenings and weekends, but when I was playing on my own, it was always Shenmue 2 on the original Xbox. And the experience I had with that game was so much better than anything that I was experiencing on the 360 at that time.
Yeah, it blew you away, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it
and that
did it
was
for
on the
you as
next
well, didn't
gen.
it?
Oh yeah, like I mean, I played it on the well, actually, technically, my journey began with this friend of mine that I mentioned who had a Dreamcast, and one day I went round to his house, and I actually remember the scene because I've just played it. Well, yeah, I'll get to that, but just played it myself actually because I'm actually replaying the game, Shenmue 1, and yeah, I remember this scene, and it was this old woman who was asking you like for help for directions trying to find a house or whatever. And I was just like, what is this game? And he was just walking around, like looking around for this thing, and then like a few different events happened. And I was just like, it blew me away because you're on this real Japanese street talking to real people who like have real lives, and I just there was nothing like that. And it was just so incredible at the time, like it was light years ahead of everything. And that's where my journey began with it. And I saw him playing it, and we both thought it was literally like a movie at the time. It is hard to describe what Shenmue is, to be honest, but we can
Is it
try
the
our best.
first open world game?
I think it is, isn't it? I think it's meant to be the first open world game. Although, in by modern terms, it's not really open world now in that sense, I guess, because I feel like nowadays the term open world comes with the connotation of like no loading screens between areas, which I mean, I don't think that's a healthy thing that we've kind of got ourselves into. That's a whole different conversation. But I think, yeah, that is the connotation that we have now with open world. But back then, that wasn't the case, right? And this was, yeah, basically an open world game where you had, an environment that you could roam around and go different directions, and everything kind of connected to each other, right? And but yeah, like basically, like you're you're some I guess he's like teenager guy, a teenage dude who
16 or 17?
I think he's 17
And it's
because I
set
think
in
he's
the 80s,
just
isn't it?
below.
Like
It is in the
1986
80s. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And
in
he
Japan.
in Japan, crucially, yeah, in a very rural area of Japan, like a nice little sort of small town.
And he comes
And
home from school one day, doesn't he?
yeah,
And he
yeah,
finds his house, very Japanese house, classic Japanese, and they've got a dojo on the side of the house, haven't they? And he goes
yeah,
into the dojo and basically witnesses his father being murdered in front of him by a guy using martial arts.
yeah.
And they leave, don't they? And I guess the game then cuts forward in time. How far later does the game pick up? Is it
Maybe
weeks or
like a few
days?
days, I think. I think it's just a few days. Yeah.
And basically, the guy that you're playing as, Ryu Hazuki, this kid, he basically wants revenge, right? He wants to find out who these people were that killed his father and why, and then he wants to exact his revenge. And the game is you playing as this guy, um, walking the streets, asking people if they saw the car, whether they got the license plate, that sort of stuff. He's sort of acting like an amateur detective, isn't he? He's sort of
Yeah.
is he does he just stop attending school or has school ended because it's the holidays? Because it does sort of
It does
run
happen
into
at Christmas,
Christmas,
doesn't
doesn't
it?
it?
Yeah, because it is, I think it starts like December something.
It
So I
does
don't
actually
know if
start
they
in
maybe
December.
have a,
That's another
but
thing we
it's
should
early-ish
explain.
December though, I think, because it's like it takes a while for Christmas. I think you could technically complete the game before Christmas, right? I think maybe just
Yeah,
because
so
the
we should
game,
explain, right?
I
Because
know,
the
like it's like every day that you take in the game, it actually does progress to another day, right? Like, and it's even now you don't really necessarily get that in games, but like it's
it
like you
has a
start,
true day-night cycle, doesn't it? Which was
yeah,
revolutionary back then, and people in the town and people you meet, your neighbors and things like that, everyone has their own lives, which is even by today's standards, not really a thing, is it? It's
no.
you
I think
could,
maybe
and I
Red Dead
have,
Redemption did a little bit of this.
but
It would
not
be a
not to
modern
the
thing,
same level.
not to the
Like,
same level,
because
no.
in I remember in Shenmue following people, like I would go to the high street in the game and I would watch them open up in the morning and stand there at their stalls or work in their shops. And then I would see some of them would go off for their lunch break. And I would follow them when they, I remember following a guy who went and got a drink from a vending machine. And then they would close up shop at the end of the day and you could follow them home to their local homes. So
Yep.
they all had like a pattern. And on weekends they wouldn't work because it's weekend and stuff. And it was incredibly detailed, like a life sim in a way. But this is running on a Sega Dreamcast. That's what's amazing about it.
I know,
It was
I
doing
know.
things that games don't even do now, but it was doing it back then. And it was
The
doing everything
detail,
for the
right?
first time.
It's the guy, obviously, Yu Suzuki that we mentioned, there was the director of this. Like, he obviously was just meticulous about detail, and the detail of everything, the detail of like having these characters that have lives and have even like everyone has an actual place that they live and all. It's not just like it's like pretend everyone actually has these lives and everything. And if you go at certain times, different things will happen. And you'll even get certain events that will only occur if you happen to be there at the right time or whatever, which also makes it interesting because like multiple playthroughs can be different as well. But like, but also the detail of the streets, right? Like there was so much detail of the like of each shop, of each location, of each like building, like everything was so meticulously done. Again, even now, like you might not necessarily get that detail, right? It's
Mm. Yeah, the
because he did the
faces as well
smaller.
struck me because
Oh, the faces,
when
yeah.
I played it in 2006, that was my first time I played it.
20
It
years ago, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm playing this Dreamcast game in 2006. It came out in 1999. And the faces looked better than the faces in the games I was playing on my Xbox 360 because they were so detailed.
Yeah.
You could tell characters apart from one another. just from a glance. You would know who they are. Whereas other games of that era, they tended to have the same sort of face, basically, with tiny little differences in them. They were indistinguishable from one another for the most part, especially NPCs, non-playable characters. No developer would put any effort into that kind of detailing.
No, and in fact, going on from the NPCs there, like another thing that was also revolutionary at the time, and is still, I would argue, still revolutionary now, actually, is each character in the game, you could also talk to them, right? And in the like in various different situations, literally everyone, you can kind of talk to them. And occasionally they did take a little bit of liberty, right, where they'd be like, "I'm too busy right now. I'll talk to you later," sort of thing, right? If they're walking around, they need to get to their work and all that, which I guess makes sense because they do need to get to work, right? But like
Mm.
in general, you could basically go like, "Oh, like, did you see anything or whatever?" And they might not have any, particular news for you, but you can ask them and they'll have an answer. Or you maybe have to ask for directions and maybe they'll even take you there. Like it's so detailed that you could talk to everybody. I mean, even now you can't do that in any game. I don't think I've seen any other game apart from Shenmue where you can talk to literally every character in the game.
And
I can't think
Shenmue
of anything.
invented the QTE sequence as well,
Oh
didn't it?
yeah.
But
Yeah,
it,
which
it
has been that's gone through different reams of people loving and hating it to the point
yeah.
now where I think people have universally accepted that actually like QTEs are pretty cool sometimes to have like to kind of make sequences in games have a bit of action. You're trying to do like a cutscene and something happens. Like basically a QTE for people is like a cutscene's going on, right? And then suddenly it's like you need to press this button or you need to move to this direction or whatever. But it does make the whole thing feel more interactive. And some games have done it better than
So
others, right?
it's not a passive cut. A cutscene's just
Yeah,
something you
exactly.
watch. A
Yeah.
QTE is an interactive cutscene, really.
And
And
some of the best types of that stuff I've seen is where like you might not even know, right? Like you start the sequence and it looks like just a regular cutscene. And then
yeah.
suddenly it makes you press stuff and you're like, oh no. And
Well,
it keeps you going there rather than just putting your controller down on the floor or whatever, or on your table or whatever, while you
and
watch a stupid cutscene for about half an hour.
and what Shenmue did that games still don't do with QTE is it would have branching QTEs. So if you play a modern game now and it has QTE part sequences, if you fail the QTE sequence, basically the game will load again and you'll have another attempt to do it. And you can keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you succeed or you give up. But with Shenmue, it had branching QTEs. So, for example, in the game, there's a sequence where you're chasing a guy and he's running away from you down the street and the QTE's going on. If you fail the first part of it, instead of the game instantly reloading and saying to you, do it again, the sequence continues, but now it's gone down a different branch. And then
Yeah.
you do the QTE again, and if you fail it again the second time, the sequence continues, but it's gone down a different branch. And so essentially what the game's doing is giving you multiple attempts to succeed without making you reload. But depending on at what part in the sequence you succeed, you're going to see a different thing on the screen. And the resolution can change. And actually,
Yeah.
Shenmue, actually there are parts where it is possible to fail the QTE, but the game doesn't fail. Like you don't fail and the game doesn't reload. The game continues, but the person got away. And so you're going to have to find another solution to your problem because you didn't
Yeah.
solve the problem with the QTE. So now you're going to have to look for an alternative solution. No other game does that.
I know
Didn't do
it's
it then, doesn't do it now.
fantastic. Like there was I still remember one that really stuck in my mind where you fight these guys or something. And I don't know if it was it might not have been a QT actually, it might have been a regular fight, but I'm pretty sure it was a QT. But anyway, you fight these people and I wasn't good enough at doing it, right? And I was like, oh no. And then I thought it was going to redo it again, restart it again. But then I was tied up in some room somewhere, and one of the characters ended up coming in and rescuing me. And I was like, that is amazing. I've only seen that once when I played it because I always succeed now. But I was just so amazed by that. I was like, man, that's so cool that I was tied up and someone had to come and help me. So it
Mm.
changed the story a little bit. Like it's just that is incredible. I mean, it must have been very expensive doing it like that, but it's
And
so
the
damn
the
cool.
the game would also have mini games within the main game. So there was, for example, an arcade, and you could go in there and you could actually play smaller sort of 8-bit or 16-bit games at the arcade within the 3D game of Shenmue. And you could spend your whole afternoon there until the store shut.
Yeah,
You could
yeah,
you
that
could
was
just waste
definitely.
days and days doing it. There's you could play darts. You could get a
Yeah,
job. I got a job as a forklift truck driver to earn money, and that was one of the standout sequences of the game. Strangely enough, how much I enjoyed working as a forklift truck driver, and it also had a fighting system based on Virtua Fighter, right? Which was a Saturn game, wasn't it, originally?
yeah,
Well,
it
I
was.
guess
I
originally it
think
was
they
an
made
arcade
more as
game.
well. Oh, that's right. Yes, it was an arcade game. Then they did Saturn one, and then I think there has been more, haven't there? I think they've made some newer ones as well.
Mm. But
Still,
they
I think
put
it's still technically an ongoing series, but it's not as popular now.
but they took that mechanic and they put it into Shenmue. And so you could actually learn fighting moves, train with different characters in the game, learn the moves, master the moves, and then use them in your real life when the situation arises.
Yeah,
Yu Suzuki and his team basically had unlimited money from Sega for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why Sega basically gave him a blank check.
yeah. I think it was their equivalent of what we would now do with a live service game.
It was the
Now,
GTA of its time, right? That
yeah, I
so
guess it was. Yeah,
as we're
yeah,
recording
that's
this,
true.
people are excited for the release of GTA 6. And GTA 6 has been in development for many, many, many years. And Take-Two gave Rockstar basically unlimited time, unlimited cash to make the game that they want to make. And it's a guaranteed blockbuster, right? It will be the biggest video game of all time when it releases. This is known, this is guaranteed. And that's why they've been given that blank check. But Yu Suzuki was given the same sort of resources in the 90s with a game that was a brand new IP, which wasn't a proven franchise, which wasn't a sure thing, which wasn't a guarantee success. In fact, because the Dreamcast didn't sell particularly great, I heard it said that Shenmue would actually have to sell 2 copies to every owner of a Dreamcast just to break even with the budget it had.
Yeah. So they didn't really think all this through. But I guess what they thought at the time, which I do understand, was this thing could be a system seller, right?
Yes,
And it could.
yes.
I think with the right situation, I do think this type of thing could have been at the time, right? And I think it was like a kind of like a modern equivalent of a live service kind of game, right? Where you go, let's put all our eggs in one basket for years and years and years, and then this thing's going to make us all the money in the world. And that's what happened with this. I think it was like, let's put all our eggs in this basket, which obviously is, it's not normally a good idea, really, to be honest. But this could blow the world. It could blow everyone away, and just like we're going to get everyone to buy a Dreamcast.
It should
Um,
have, shouldn't it? It should have done that. It should have come out and it really should have been game of the year, game of the decade. It should have every gamer should have wanted to buy a Dreamcast to get hold of this game. That's what should have happened.
it should have done, yeah.
But
The
anyway,
marketing was also pretty bad, wasn't it? Because I don't know about in Japan, but
well, I
over
never
here,
even heard of it. I
same,
never
yeah. It
even heard
was,
of the game.
yeah. It was only with. I mean, in my case, it was my friend that was playing it. I don't know how he heard of it, but like,
How can you spend so much money developing this game and then not market it and let people
I
know that it
know,
exists and let people know how
crazy,
amazing a product that you have?
yeah. It's bonkers, isn't it? It's bonkers. But they really thought they were going to get somewhere with this. And then so what happened? But also, I think it is worth mentioning this just quickly is part when we say the budget of Shenmue, and people say, oh, it needs to sell two copies and all this type of thing. That is true, but it's also not completely true because what they did do with Shenmue is they built essentially the what would be, like you said, Shenmue 2, Shenmue 3, and beyond. They built like this whole kind of architecture, I guess, and this whole idea of building a series up front, which again probably is a mistake looking back.
Yeah.
That I think that is a mistake, to be honest, doing that. But
Because there
I
was
think
five
because you
games
don't know,
planned,
right?
correct?
Yeah, exactly. And
And
I think
today we've only had three released.
three of them, yeah. So I think, yeah, basically planning for more releases was a mistake because that does make it more expensive. But again, I do get it though, because then technically each game after that could get cheaper and cheaper. But being so, like I think now that we know, like we've seen this more and more, but again, we still do it with live service games. But I think the evidence is now pretty clear now that in general, it's not a great idea building things expecting a particular amount of money to be made or a particular amount of sales and kind of engineering everything for that. But I think that, yeah, that's what happened though. They basically built a series rather than a game. And and that brings us to Shenmue 2, right? Which came after this. And that actually ended up, it was a weird release where it ended up coming out on kind of Dreamcast and original Xbox.
The Dreamcast was basically dying at that point, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Sega went third party, and then that's how it got over onto the Xbox.
Yeah, which was also a really weird situation. And again, zero marketing,
Yeah.
zero marketing, zero anything. In fact, it just popped out on there. And that's where both of us started our Shenmue journey in terms of buying the game
I
anyway.
didn't even play it on my original Xbox at the
No,
time.
you
I
didn't
I
know.
missed it again because zero marketing. And so I only played it because speaking to you and you started telling me about it.
Yep.
Now, if someone wanted to play these games in the year of our Lord 2026, how would they go about doing so, Shenmue?
Oh man, you have got it easy now.
So they
Right?
don't need to go and
Because
buy a Dreamcast, do they?
no, no, don't have to go out and get a Dreamcast anymore. Like compared to what we had to do messing around getting all these old things. Thankfully, 2018, they finally released a way in which people can just play like on basically any platform now. It's on PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
So Shenmue 1 and 2 on the
Yeah,
same disc, right, for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And the PlayStation 5, being backwards compatible, will play the game.
and same
And
for
the
Xbox.
Xbox Series console, Series S, Series
Yeah.
X, you can also play those games through backwards compatibility.
And you can grab them on the store as well. Like all
They're
of them are
available
on, they're
digitally.
available all this. So you could just literally just like if you don't even have to leave your house right now, you could just literally go on your store and go bloop and
So
purchase these
literally
now.
the only modern platform that they're not available on is the Switch or the Switch
That's
2.
right. Yeah.
So if you are a
Unfortunately
Nintendo
not there.
only fan, you're out of
You're
luck.
out. Yeah. But everyone else can get a copy now, and you don't need a particularly powerful machine to play it on. But it's
Yes.
so nice. Like it's so easy to be able to experience this now that you could just literally get, and this is the best way to
I
experience it as
mean,
well.
me and you, we enjoyed playing Shenmue 2 back in the day on our original Xbox so much that we went and bought a second-hand Dreamcast and a copy of Shenmue 1 just to be able to play that original game so we could play the
Yeah.
full story, didn't we? That's how much we love these games. And now
Yeah.
someone listening to this can just click a button on their current modern console or PC and just download it and
Yeah.
they're playing it within a few
Crazy.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
With a
It's
modern
amazing that they did
controller and
that.
everything, in
We were
HD.
begging for this for so many years, and we were so happy that they actually did do this re-release. Like it is, I mean, that was yeah, it's huge, really, that you can just do that. And I've heard this from multiple sources that Sega basically just went to that company that made it, which is D3T, I believe they're in the UK, and they actually just went, "Hey guys, here's a copy of Shenmue 1 and 2. make it happen for modern systems. And they're like, well, hang on a minute, do you not even have like the code base or anything? They're like, nope, nope, you're just gonna have to do it all yourself. And that's it. Literally, that's apparently what they did. And so D3T actually had to reverse engineer the game and try and figure out how to actually port it because it's properly ported. It's not some emulation rubbish or anything like that. It's properly playing as a native game. And they actually reverse engineered the whole thing and managed to get the whole thing running. And it's an incredible feat of engineering, honestly, what they did. So it's really cool now that you can
But
play
they
without even
were
thinking about any of
passionate
this.
themselves to get it going. They
Yeah,
it wasn't just a job for them. It was like a passion project because they were fans themselves.
you can feel that. Like even in the UI that they added, right? They basically redid the UI, and the UI is it doesn't even look like it's different to the old in the sense that it's also like it's honoring the how everything looks and feels in the game, right? And I love it. You can always tell when it's like that, right? It's not like somebody trying to push their ego and like, hey, look, I can do it much better now. It's like, no, no, this is how it kind of basically should feel like with a modern way to do it, right? In that sense, like a modern interface, but it's still the same idea with the still it kind of gives you that nostalgia of how it used to feel as well. So yeah, they did such a great job doing that. Like it was so nice that they like you can tell it's a passion project, can't you?
Yeah. And you can tell how passionate we are about the game that we've taken this huge detour in the middle of our Batman Begins episode to talk about this ancient game now.
Yeah.
But it is relevant because we were talking about Kowloon, wasn't we? And Kowloon features in this game, and it was an inspiration for the Narrow. So um,
It was.
that
And
legitimizes our discussion, I think, right?
it does, it does. Like it was actually quite amazing what they did with Kowloon.
They take some
It's a bit
liberties.
bright. Yeah, they took some liberties. And I do remember seeing an interview where he actually said, yeah, we did. We had to do in the end. But it is cool how it captures that really gritty, grim atmosphere, though. Everything's kind of a bit depressing. There's all these tall buildings that you can go in, and you can actually explore. Like you basically go in any of them, right? And kind of navigate all this. And like there's like a lot of the buildings have like broken up floors, and everything's like falling apart, right? And all that kind of stuff. Like they do capture some of that. It's
Mm,
just that it's a bit more organized and a bit more light and bright than it would have been in real life. But I get why he would have why I tell you what though, I would love to see like a modern version of trying to capture something like Kowloon now in a video game where you can actually navigate that. Because I feel like you could do it now, right? You could really capture that with all the technology that we have now.
mm.
That'd be super cool. But then
Yeah, it
you'd have
would.
to have somebody like Yu Suzuki, like the Shenmue guy, to actually have the detail, though, to want to capture that detail that they did back then.
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning of our discussion today, when I first saw Batman Begins and I saw this scene of the Narrows, I said I didn't really believe it because I hadn't heard of Kowloon. But it was through playing Shenmue 2 that I took an interest in Kowloon, the real world location that served as inspiration for the movie. And when I learnt the details around Kowloon City, I realized that it wasn't that far-fetched after all to have such a omni shambles right in the middle of a modern city.
You might think it doesn't seem that believable, but like you say now, I could kind of see it in a way. In the modern world right now, I guess I don't think there's anywhere that's quite like this anymore.
No, I think
But
Kowloon was a unique thing.
it certainly was, yeah. And I've also done quite a bit of research on Kowloon as well because I find it very interesting
Oh,
that
excellent.
that even existed. Yeah, and I mean, it was a bit of time ago when when I was like really looking into it, but it fascinated me definitely as a place.
Kowloon was an inspiration for this, for the Narrows. That it was
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
an
now that I
inspiration.
know about it, like I can see that straight away, really.
Warner Brothers reused this shot numerous times in other television shows on the CW channel, much to my chagrin. They reused it in Smallville, and they reused it in Arrow as well. And I'm not sure if they used it in any other shows, but they kept reusing it, and it really annoyed me because it's famously Batman, right? It's the Narrows from Batman, but they kept reusing it in different shows to save money. And it just, every
Yeah.
time I see it, it annoys me because I'm just like, didn't you think anyone would notice? It's such a sort of iconic shot. I, Batman Begins wasn't like the biggest blockbuster, so maybe they were thinking like that, that they were
Yeah,
thinking,
people
well,
might
it's not
forget
like,
about it, kind of
yeah, a
thing.
lot of
Yeah.
people didn't see Batman Begins in the cinema, maybe, but it was quite successful on DVD and Blu-ray. So it's just a really bizarre thing that they would do that.
It is bizarre. I guess, yeah, they would back in those days they used to use a lot more stock footage, didn't they? And like now, I guess with CG and everything, you can just create something,
But it wouldn't be so
which is
bad if it wasn't such a visually unique thing. It's clearly the
yeah,
na I
yeah,
mean, you've got the monorail there as well from this film,
yeah.
like which is again unique to this film with the triple rail and everything. Like, come on.
Hmm. I didn't know that though. That's interesting that they reused it.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, it is a fascinating idea though, isn't it? And I do like how they've done this though. I think it's cool. The Narrows, like it's a more kind of it is kind of a realistic take on it. But like you said, when you don't know much about it, you might think it's definitely not.
There's
Oh yeah,
Kowloon.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. But I'm sure you found this when you were researching this, but it's actually quite hard to find footage of this place because I guess because people didn't really go in there like filming it. It'd be very hard to film anyway when you're in there because it's so compact. But there's actually not that much because when I was researching it, I was like trying to find as much as I could about it. And I recognize this shot actually here. There isn't a lot of stuff, and that's why I mean, it's all going to be old as well
Yeah.
because the place was demolished, wasn't it, in the 90s. I think it's like 93 or 4 or 5, something like that. I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly when it
93,
was.
94.
Yeah,
It's now public
and
park.
it is a public park. Yeah, it's like a memorial type thing, isn't it, of this city.
Yeah.
I think the proper name was it Kowloon Walled City, I think it was called. I
Kowloon
mean,
Walled
like,
City,
yeah.
also known as the City of Darkness,
Yeah, sounds about right.
figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
So, in my research, which I did again to just sort of refresh myself, this is what I found. It originated as a Chinese military fort in the 17th century. By the 19th century, the British Empire was importing large quantities of opium from India into China. This led to the First Opium War between the British and Chinese empires. Britain won the war and ended up occupying Hong Kong. The Chinese Empire then reinforced the fort of Kowloon by building large walls around it. A second Opium War erupted in 1860. This resulted in the Kowloon Peninsula falling into British hands. In 1898, the British Empire negotiated a boundary expansion that lasted for 99 years, with the exception of the Kowloon Walled City, a Chinese enclave right in the middle of British controlled Hong Kong.
Mm.
That's how you end up with this walled city. As time wore on, the Chinese government lost interest in the walled city and basically let the people living there get on with things on their own. The barracks eventually were abandoned and squatters moved in. In 1937, Japan invaded China. They tore down the walls of Kowloon City and repurchased the materials to enlarge a local airport. By the end of World War II, Hong Kong was once again under British control. In
Um,
1949, the newly founded People's Republic of China demanded dominion over Kowloon City. What actually happened, however, was that a massive wave of refugees from the Chinese Civil War flooded into the area and the city began to grow. The buildings became so dense that the streets were completely blocked from the sun.
Yeah,
The city became its own lawless enclave.
that's so weird, isn't it? Looking back, I wonder why the Chinese wanted to keep this, though, this area.
Yeah.
Kind of confusing, right?
Okay, well, let's consult AI. It says that the Chinese government sought to keep Kowloon walled city primarily as a symbol of sovereignty and resistance against British colonialism. China viewed the unequal treaties that ceded Hong Kong as illegitimate. Maintaining a claim to the walled city served as a political reminder that the surrounding area was still Chinese territory. Even when they did not have day-to-day control, maintaining jurisdiction was a matter of national pride for successive Chinese governments against Western powers. The Chinese foreign minister used the city's status as a political pawn to challenge British authority throughout the 20th century. Anyone could build anything, anywhere, without planning permission or regulation, with one exception.
The height, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the airport
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
Japan
yeah,
enlarged? Well, that
yeah.
meant that no building could exceed 14 stories because the
That's right.
city was literally along its flight path. So
Yeah.
that's why when you see it there, they're all roughly at that height because that was the maximum they could build up to.
Yeah, because the planes actually went directly above this thing.
Yes.
Like they would do a really weird turn where they would like suddenly yeah, they'd end up turning, which would end up going over this thing in order to get to the airport. And yeah, this so that basically the buildings could never go any taller, right? But it's so that's so funny though, because it's like but it looks like I think I saw footage of it as well, and the planes look like they're just like they're almost going to touch the buildings. So it's like the one restriction that they had. They were like, you can't do that, man. Like
If
it's
someone
so
stood on
weird.
one of those roofs and like got on a step ladder, they could probably touch the bottom of the plane as it
Yeah,
passed
yeah, it
over.
looks so close.
There wasn't any waste management.
Oh man.
Trash was thrown into the shafts between buildings or onto one of the building's rooftops.
Oh God.
Air was polluted by the factories that operated within the city.
Wow.
And while the buildings on the perimeter had fresh air, the majority didn't even have windows.
Oh my God.
They had to rely exclusively on simulated light sources, and most of those people refused to pay for their electricity, choosing instead to steal it.
They probably didn't have enough money to do that anyway. So actually, the outside buildings, they
Mm,
would have been the very high value kind of ones, really, right? Because that's where
yeah,
you want to be, so you get some light. Because these
fresh
guys would
air.
actually have it fairly nice compared to the rest of people, right?
By the 1980s, there were 35,000 residents in just 6.4 acres.
Wow.
It's quite amazing, isn't it, to think?
It really is. Like, I am so sad that this doesn't exist anymore because I would love to go in here and have and look around.
I mean, at
So
least the
actually,
Narrows has waste management going for it,
yeah.
and they have windows.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it looks way nicer than this did. During all of that time when it was like a city and everything, and people are living in there, it was like a place where a bit like as they talk about in the Batman Begins, right? They say like the police don't go in there and everything unless they're
Force.
forced.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's exactly the case here. So they took that completely from Kowloon. So it was like the police never went in here
Mm.
apart from very occasionally in a large like amount of them would go in together to do I don't know, maybe somebody needs to be arrested or something like that, but in general they tried to keep away from it, and it actually self-policed itself, which is fascinating as well. So there must have been all sorts of bad stuff that went on in there as well, but I think in general though it didn't seem like it was a particularly like evil place, if you know what I mean. It seems like it wasn't like full of terrible stuff going on. I think people were just getting on with their lives, right? And it's just, you know, in a pretty grim setting, I think.
There was decent people living and
Yeah.
working there. The triads controlled criminal
Ah,
enterprise within the
yeah.
city, and businesses would have to pay them protection money. The
Ah,
triads
okay.
provided opium dens, prostitution, and heroin trafficking.
Oh God. So yeah, there was dark stuff going on. I actually didn't know about that, but that makes sense. Although they did rule in that sense and made people pay protection,
Mm.
I think that's not the majority, right? The majority there, like the vast majority, I think, were actually just regular people just getting on with their lives and just doing doing what you do, right? Just getting through everything.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot, and this is another thing that's interesting. They actually talked to people after they left Kowloon, right? And they went and lived in like proper accommodation and all that stuff. And a lot of the people actually said they missed it because I guess there was a sense of community that they lost, right? Because like everyone would have probably known everyone, and like, well, not everyone knowing everyone because it's not a small village, but you know what I mean. Like you'd have your community of people, like everyone's kind of looking after each other in a weird way, right? Because it's kind of like that trauma bonding situation. That's how I would see it. And they actually really missed it afterwards, which is really weird, right?
I
Because
like
obviously,
that. I like that trauma bonding.
yeah. Well, I think it's definitely a real thing, and it's like, yeah, I think when they're in that situation, it's like it's pretty rough in a lot of ways, but they'd all like club together, right, and look after each other to some extent. Yeah.
Interestingly, dog meat was a popular treat for the residents, a delicacy outlawed elsewhere in China.
Huh. It's such an interesting place to exist, man. It really is. But
There
China did
wasn't
get embarrassed about it, didn't they? That's why it ultimately got destroyed, because China felt embarrassed that such a thing could exist, and lawlessness and kind of, like out of Chinese control. And that's why they ultimately got rid of it, because they were like, we can't have this, man. Like it looks terrible for us, right? It looks like we're powerless. So we've got another shot of the Narrows.
looking very much like Kowloon, right?
Very, very much, yeah.
Especially this bit here with Batman hanging off the side of the building in the rain. This looks just like Kowloon.
Yeah. I love all these bits. I love all the cabling.
Back in the
It's
day, people thought that this kid was going to be Robin.
oh,
It was like their speculation that he could have a larger part in the sequel.
maybe they at least, I mean, it's possible they at least thought of that, but I feel like he seems maybe too young.
A sequel would have been 3 years away, right? So
True.
I think the actor is probably what do you think he was? 10, 11, 12 maybe at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 3 years later, he's probably like, that's kind of the age Robin would be, right?
I guess so.
If you're doing like a comic book Robin.
So maybe that was it, or maybe they just teased it, like even with no possibility at the time. They just sort of like wanted people to speculate.
Could be. He does come back, this kid, doesn't he? Later on in the film with Rachel. And
Hmm.
but again, he doesn't really have a purpose. He's just a potential victim. Batman saves the two of them.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit pointless. I feel like the only point here is just, oh, his parents are obviously arguing. The poorer people in the Narrows, they're more likely to be like that, right? And have like more problems at home, I guess.
But he looks very well
Yeah,
cared for a kid that lives in the Narrows, I thought. A kid from the Narrows might look a bit, I don't know.
bit more rough.
Yeah, a little bit more rough looking.
I don't know. I don't see there's an awful lot of point in this little bit, really.
So the kid comes out on the balcony, and then Batman notices him. He's like, oh, there's a kid come out, right? But then Batman leans out from the building and catches the kid's attention.
Oh, yeah.
And I would have thought that he would have flattened himself to the building to make himself less conspicuous, right? I don't think it's unintentional that Batman did that. He's too clever to do it unintentionally. So he's making himself noticeable.
Is he doing it because he wants to cheer the guy up because he can see that there's issues and everything? This whole bit with the kid just feels really pointless to me. Like
I'm
it feels like it would have been better to cut it out and then the film would have been shorter.
It feels weird. It almost feels like they're setting something up. Like maybe there was a deleted scene or something, and there was more to do with this
Uh,
kid that got cut or something. That's what it feels
that
like.
sounds possible, yeah, because it does feel like there's not a lot of point otherwise.
But then if you are cutting the kid, then why not cut this scene? You have the kid at the end of the movie though with Rachel, right? So I guess they felt they needed this bit for the bit at the end. But then, because what you
To
have at the end,
introduce him.
maybe, yeah, because what you have at the end of the movie is you just have the kid and he goes up to the what he thinks is the authorities and he's like, I can't find my parents. I think that's what he says. And then the guy like pushes him away and Rachel's like, hey, what are you doing? And then the guy like points a finger at Rachel, warns her away.
But why does the kid need to be like, couldn't
He
that have
don't
just
need
been
the
a random
setup, yeah.
kid?
Yeah, exactly. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't need this setup now I'm thinking about it. So
I mean, I guess maybe it's to try to give you a little bit more empathy because you've
I
seen him
don't
and
know. I
where he
feel
lives and
like I
everything.
have
I don't
enough
know.
empathy for a kid that's lost in the Narrows
Yeah.
without his parents. Like that works just as it does without needing this.
Yeah, honestly, I'm very confused about this little bit. Like, I just don't think there's any need for it. Like, this is what to me, this is what editing is all about, right? When you're making a movie, is to get rid of things like this.
I would have cut this. In
Yeah.
fact, I wouldn't have even filmed it. I don't like the fact that Batman throws him the tool as well, because that's probably a very expensive piece of kit. I know Bruce Wayne can afford to buy a new one, right? He's got spares. But the idea of just giving this poor kid in the Narrows this super expensive device just so he can basically show off at school the next day or something and say he met Batman.
Someone's probably going to steal it as well, right?
Yeah, it'd probably get beaten up and some bullies will take it off of him anyway, won't they?
Yeah,
Do you recognize this kid Shenmue from anything?
I do not. Should I?
Yes, you should. This is Jack Gleason, and he is best known for playing King Joffrey Baratheon in HBO's Game of Thrones.
Oh, oh
It's
my God, I
Joffrey.
think I do see it now.
Yep.
Oh my God.
It's nice
That's
to see
so
him
weird.
playing a
Yeah.
nice kid instead of like this horrible, horrible kid that you want to whack.
He was
But he wasn't.
such a good actor in that as well because you just want to kill him so much.
Yeah, yeah. You want his
It's
parents to discipline him so much, don't you?
you do. Like I hated him so much. I feel like I hated him more than any other character in the show, actually. Oh man.
Now, last year, he was in House of Guinness, which was on Netflix. Is on Netflix, I should say.
Hmm.
Now, House of Guinness is a story about the Guinness family, that make the world famous Irish beer.
Oh.
And I didn't recognize him in the program. It was only when I was looking up what he's done recently that it said House of Guinness. And I was like, who did he play in that then? And then when I saw the image, I was like, oh, he's that character. He played it very well in that show, but I didn't recognize him because he's now an adult.
Did that show, by the way, feature Vancouver at all? Because I
Not
know
that I
that
know
the
of.
Guinness family
No,
did
because it's all in
come over
Ireland.
here. Right, okay. Because yeah,
Yeah.
they did come over here, and there's like a big thing about that because there's even like a bridge here that's basically related to
I think
them.
they've come over to America in the show because actually his character in the show, he's their contact in America. He's trying to
Right,
like
I
help
see.
them expand the business. I don't know if it's coming back for a second season or not. Now, why is the kid not scared as well, Shenmue? Because I would have thought, kid seeing a guy dressed up as Batman at night like this, wouldn't you jump out of your skin?
I
Because
know, I know. He's so calm, right? He sees him at the corner of his eye, and it's like, oh yeah, my friends wouldn't believe me.
hang on a
Oh,
minute, he's never seen Batman before. There's no imagery of Batman, right, available at this point. All he would have known is the reports by the media that this bat-like creature has attacked some criminals at the docks, right? That's all he would know. And even if there's a sort of artist drawing or something in the paper or whatever, the actual reality of seeing this I would have thought would have terrified the kid. You'd have thought he would
Yeah.
have like,
You can at least jump a
Mom!
bit.
Yeah, you'd have
Yeah.
run back indoors, Mom, Dad.
So chill about it. It's so funny.
Yeah. So again, another reason I'm not keen on this scene. I really would like to delete
It's
this
weak,
little
isn't it?
scene
It's
with the
very,
kid.
very weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very weak.
Now, I'm
Ah, yeah.
surprised that Crane attended the pickup in person.
Yeah, I was also surprised about that.
I would have thought he would have just sent his minions, right? I mean, he's there in his suit as well,
Yeah,
you
in the
know?
Narrows.
Well,
I feel like
the
that's
Arkham
risky.
Asylum is in the Narrows, yeah, true. But
True.
to come in person, to put yourself at risk like this, it seems like something a guy like him wouldn't want to do. Want to keep his hands clean from that, right? I would have thought.
Yeah, I feel like he's only there so that we can have the scene with him as Scarecrow. I
Absolutely.
think that's
Like I
literally the only reason.
Yep. Crane feels like the kind of character that's a bit of a coward, right? He likes the advantage over people with the gas and the mask and all that stuff. He likes to see people scared, but he's physically a very weak person, isn't he? And so
Hmm.
to do things like this, I just don't think he would be involved in something like this. There's no
No
need for
way.
him to be there. He could just send the minions. They can just set fire to the place, right? And report back.
Yeah, because there's so many risks here. There's like the risk of being found out that he's connected to this, but
Mhm.
there's even the risk of being attacked, right?
If I'm him, I'd be more concerned with Batman. He feels safe in the Narrows because we know the cops don't go into the Narrows, right? He probably feels safe from other residents there because he's got his dudes with him. But he knows that Batman is operating now, right? He knows that Batman took out Falcone and all of those guys at the docks. Now, knowing that, if I'm Crane, I'd be like, I don't want to go anywhere where I could come in contact with Batman.
Yeah.
It gives us a
Yeah.
really cool scene. The scene
It
is
does give it a cool scene. Yeah.
undeniably cool, and I'm glad
It
it's
is.
there, but it doesn't really make too much logical sense that he should be there at this point, right?
Yeah.
What I really love about this scene, Batman's brutal efficiency as he takes out the guys.
Yeah.
You know, the guy that's urinating
At the
in the
yeah, with the
bathroom
mirror.
and then he just gets his head smashed into that mirror. I love that. You don't even see Batman do it. You know, you have movies where they have elaborate stunt sequences, often involving kung fu, right? And they'll have this, and it just feels so fake to me. It might be cool to look at. The brutal efficiency of Batman to me is
Yeah.
cooler than the 5 minute kung fu sequence where they're dancing on tables and like fighting off the wall and things like that. It's like just seeing Batman smash that dude's face into the wall is like, yeah, that's so much
Yeah,
cooler
it's
to me.
cool. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
he doesn't waste any time. He takes no time though, doesn't he? Like to get his mask on and all that.
he carries
Like
it around in that
first sign of
briefcase
trouble. Yeah, exactly.
because
Like
he
and the
pulled it out.
first sign of trouble is like bang,
Yeah, he
straight
pulled it
on.
out, didn't he, when he was in the interrogation room with Falcone? Previously, we were talking about does he have the mask with him or did he bring it to Falcone
Ah,
specially?
yeah.
Well, now we've actually
This
answered that
proves.
question. He has it with him all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. He really does.
What I do like is this bit here, like where the bats are like
Oh man,
crawling out of his mouth. That is
so
like,
cool. Yeah,
now
I love
that's
that
what I
too.
want to see from the Scarecrow. That's what
Yeah,
was missing really from the Falcone scene. Like,
yeah, because there was no kind of vision or anything, was there, from that?
well, there was,
But
if you, it's really quick, but you can sort of see maggots on the mask in the Falcone scene, but it's very, very quick. And it almost looks like, it could be like blood or some kind of like bodily fluid. Looks like it's like seeping through the burlap in the Falcone scene, but it's really, really quick that I guess most people just miss it.
yeah,
But what works in this scene though is not only can you see it, because even though it's quick, it's more noticeable, so you can appreciate it. But also it works because we know that Batman has a fear of bats, doesn't he?
exactly. And it
Even though
shows you
he's
that earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and even though he has faced his fears, he's still not ultra comfortable with it, you know. Obviously, otherwise, why would he be? He wouldn't be seeing bats right now, right? He'd be seeing something else.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
do like that,
Oh, I
but what
love
I
it. Yeah, there's bats all around, and then you also see him like have like flashes, right? To
to his parents' death, which
yeah,
is still something that haunts him, which makes sense. So yeah, like they do a better
fantastic.
job with this scene than they do with the Falcone scene with the
Yeah, I
Scarecrow.
actually really like this scene. I think it's just like it's spot on, isn't it? For
Yeah, and also being at night again, like we said, the problem with the Falcone scene was it was in bright light, whereas this, it's in darkness, it's in shadows, it's in a really grubby setting. Like it just feels more like a horror scene,
yeah,
which is what we want.
exactly. So cool. Yeah, I love it. And I like how it's not too quick either. Like it shows him struggling a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like there's a fair bit of struggle going on there before he ends up setting him on fire, and he's just not able to do anything about it. I also like seeing the fact that like Batman's weak against this, right? Like it's not like he can just kick his ass.
I will also say that what I like about this bit here where Batman gets set on fire, so many times in movies, you see an actor or a stuntman get set on fire, and you can tell they've had that gelatine stuff smeared all over them to protect them from the fire. And it gives you sort of a protection for sort of maybe 30, 40 seconds at most, I guess. And so for a little while, for a few seconds, they are flame resistant. Often you can tell because you can their hair's all like slapped down with the gel, it's all over their face. But with this, you can't really tell that they've got anything on there. Batman's
Yeah,
face looks dry. Like I can't see
yeah.
any gelatine on his face like you can in other movies. For me, I feel like it's good. It really sells it.
It's a bit weird that he jumps so far though
That
and
is
still survives.
he
Like I'm
survived
pretty
that,
sure that's an
yeah.
impossibility, right? There's no way you would survive this.
That is a long fall,
That's
isn't it?
too far.
I know he's
Yeah,
wearing armor.
that's too far. That's
Hmm,
crazy.
that
And he
is,
lands on a car as well.
yeah. Well,
I
actually,
guess that's better
the
than
car
the
breaks it.
concrete though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
because the
because it
car,
would
the roof dented in, so it did take some
exactly, yeah,
impact.
because cars are kind of have that softness to them, don't they? Whereas the concrete would kill him.
Yeah. So I don't
So I
know,
guess
like,
maybe you would. I don't think you'd survive this though.
because the cape is not doing anything, is it?
No,
It's not
it's not.
using
No,
it
and he
like a
doesn't use
glider.
any. Yep,
Oh,
I was going to say that. Yeah, he doesn't use anything like any gadgets or anything. So it's
yeah,
like
it's literally, it's just a free fall.
just him falling. It's just like wow. It looks so cool though. Again,
It does. It looks
it looks
incredible.
really, really, really cool. Like it's very practical, right? All
And
of
the
it is very
music's
practical
great as
looking.
well.
Yeah, I really like this. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
The,
Even when he's rolling around on the floor, right? He doesn't just immediately go out as well. That's another thing that films do all the time. Like it takes some time for him to get rid of it, to
yeah,
get it out.
yep. I like that. And you can see all the steam coming off of the cape and everything.
Yeah. And then I also love how he like stumbles through the street. I guess it's all this is all your
The
the
set,
set thing again, which is
yep.
amazing because it's so
Now,
detailed. This would have taken friggin' ages to make this bit, right? Like look how much there is everywhere.
but look at this.
Oh yeah, look at that. Oh man.
I believe that that is the roof of the Cardington shed.
Definitely, yeah. Oh man, that was a mistake there.
Because all that should be above him there is sky, right? And some rain.
Yeah. Oh man, that's like yeah, that's
Because when he gets
now that
up
I've
on the
seen
roof,
that, I
look,
can't
now we're back
unsee
to
it.
rain.
Yeah.
So
And
that
there
is
was no
meant to
rain
be
coming
open.
down, was there, when he was going up?
No, there's rain coming down in the alley as he enters it. But then as soon as he starts ascending, there's no rain. And we have the roof of the shed. And then as soon as he clambers up onto the roof of the building, the rain returns.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Maybe they would just hope that you'd think it's from another building or something, but
They should have stretched a green screen across there, really, and got some water coming down into the alley. Now, this is a mobile, isn't it, that he's using? This looks like a Nokia phone.
It looks old.
It's like remember they would have filmed this in 2004.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to have a custom communicator, right? Like, what's wrong with just a burner phone, that he's carrying around with him? A pay as you go. It's untraceable, right?
True, true. If he's like gets rid of it as well afterwards.
But even if it fell into the wrong hands, right? You've got like one number programmed in there, and it wouldn't say Alfred.
He literally just has him as an emergency thing.
If he was making the film now, he might have an iPhone because they have the world's best security, but it would be a touchscreen, and that wouldn't be very useful for Batman wearing gloves. I also like this bit with Alfred here, seeing Alfred upset, because Alfred's probably thinking, I don't know what to do. Batman's like sort of muttering away on the back seat saying
Like
like
the poison,
poison,
right? He's like,
poison,
need to,
poison. He
yeah,
keeps
yeah,
saying poison, doesn't he?
because he
So
wants him to
yeah,
get rid of it.
yeah.
And he's like, he must feel so helpless.
But he's thinking like, I can't take him to a hospital, right? And
Yeah,
he's probably got that conflict. He's like, what do I do? If I take him to a hospital, they know he's Batman. He's going to get imprisoned. If I don't take him there, he could die or go insane or whatever, right? So he's probably being torn up, thinking like, what should he do in this situation?
yeah. You can definitely see that on him, can't you?
And this is Batman's first defeat as well. If you're dealing with a gunshot wound or something like that, then Alfred probably knows how to deal with things like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Many versions of Alfred in the comics, he has previous military or medic experience, things like that. So, but with this being poisoned with this gas, I mean, that's out of his wheelhouse, right? He has no experience with that. He would have no idea what to do.
I mean, even a hospital would might not know immediately what to do, right? Because they might not
Yeah.
know what type of
I
poison
mean,
or
he's got to
whatever.
think on his feet, right?
He
He's got to
does.
be thinking this out. He might be thinking, well, maybe if I just get him home, it'll wear off. Like he doesn't know. He doesn't know if it's going to get any better or if it's going to get any worse. He doesn't know if to take him to hospital or what. He has no idea. He's just it's just like best guess. It's all he can do.
Yeah, yeah.
So that brings our episode to an end, Shenmue, on that very somber and depressing note.
Yeah. But there was a lot of stuff there though. I liked how it's quite a concentrated section of the movie. I think they've done a great job of the narrows.
One of the best parts of the
Mm.
film, in my opinion.
It is, it is. And I mean it's always great to see Batman struggling as well, right? And like actually
Yeah.
being defeated. I think that's makes it more interesting.
Yeah, you want to see your hero hurt, don't you? And
Yeah.
struggling to overcome difficulties, troubles. Definitely a cool thing to see Batman like that. You've gone from like the high of Batman's first night at the docks, and everything went perfect according to plan, and then just maybe a few days, a week later, he's now had his first major defeat.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, this is his first, I guess, supervillain, we would call him, right? Because Falcone was just a mob boss, a gangster. We're firmly into the freaks, the rogues gallery of Batman now.
Yeah.
Batman was prepared for guns and knives and clubs. He wasn't prepared for a chemical attack from a guy with a sack on his head.
That's true. You wouldn't really, would you? It's not the and then he's also going to be more prepared now, right? For these kinds of things.
Yeah, he'll learn from this, and maybe in the
Improve.
future he'll have something on the belt or in his vehicle nearby that he can administer to himself if he gets
Yep.
poisoned in some way in the future. All right, let's call it there then, Shenmue.
All right. Yeah, that was awesome.